We are here again. It's another day. We're moving forward slowly. Parts of the country are relaxing their restrictions. We are seeing infection rates go up in just about every part of the country, except for New York City, where the rate of infection is going down. And everything else just moving along as one would expect in this instance. Dr. Fauci testified to the Senate. In fact, I think he still may be doing so. Is he still testifying? They may have recessed by now. And he was testifying via Zoom, I guess it was, or some other mechanism. And here's what he had to say today.
I think we also should pay attention to that states, even if they're doing it at an appropriate pace, which many of them are and will, namely a pace that's commensurate with the dynamics of the outbreak, that they have in place already the capability that when there will be cases, there is no doubt, even under the best of circumstances, when you pull back on mitigation, you will see some cases appear. It's the ability and the capability of responding to those cases with good identification, isolation, and contact tracing will determine whether you can continue to go forward as you try to reopen America. So it's not only doing it at the appropriate time with the appropriate constraints, but having in place the capability of responding when the inevitable return of infections occur.
All right, so here's the bottom line. Here's where the Trump administration has been such a massive failure. Nothing has changed in regards to the virus. The virus remains exactly the same. The only difference that we have now between March 12th and May 12th is that much of the country is far more sensitive to what we're dealing with. And we're hoping for many in the country that they will function in a way that will mitigate the spread of the disease, at least the speed of the spread of the disease, so that we don't overcome and overwhelm our medical facilities. Now, in some parts of the country, they just don't get it, and they very well may overrun their medical facilities. But the problem is that the Trump administration has completely failed to use this time to produce tests, to develop a protocol, to follow a game plan. There was literally a game plan. I think it was like 70 pages. I don't think it was called game plan, but I think it was pretty close. I think it was like what to do in a pandemic that was left them. They threw it out the window, literally. I don't know if they literally threw it out the window. I think they literally just shoved it aside. And we are not in a position to trace or test. I know that they're developing these capacities. The states are, specific states. Federal government isn't. Specific states are going out and contracting different developers to develop apps. Some states may share it, others not. I know this for a fact. And it is absurd. This is what the federal government should be doing at this point, and they basically let that whole time just go away. And there's this sense amongst the administration, obviously not Fauci, but there's this sense that like this is political in the sense that they can defeat, or it's all perception. They really do think that the thing you don't have to fear COVID-19. What you do have to fear is fearing COVID-19. And that just doesn't work with a virus. It doesn't understand. You're not going to make it cocky and then knock it out of the box. It doesn't work that way. And so they have wasted all of this time on doing nothing. And meanwhile, in Wuhan, they have 6 new cases, and they have the ability. And I understand, obviously, their system of government's a little bit different than ours, but they have the technological ability to test 11 million people over 10 days. Just they're going to outpay, they're going to lap us in terms of ability to test by a factor of, I don't even know. I can't do math that well. And the testing is relevant because you want to get a sense of where you are in the spread of the disease, of the virus, and you want to be able to trace it. And that way you can slow its, you can manage the infection rate. And you can manage maybe what parts of your population get the infection as we head to herd immunity. Because we're not going to get a vaccine before we get to herd immunity. I mean, I think it's becoming like apparent. And so you need to do this in a very controlled manner. And I think Fauci is basically saying, like, we're missing the key element that we need to keep us from having to go back to where we were for 2 months. But we shall see. I don't know, folks. I did some back of the envelope. I mean, it's just basic numbers. 20%, if you assume 20% infection in New York City, for instance, at about 335,000 cases of infection, you need to have 3 times that until you get close to herd immunity. It took 60 days this time, but now we're down to 2,700 infections per day, and that's about 250 days before we get to 60%. May add another 50 days to get to 70%, but that presumes, some type of like that type of rate at 2,700. So the rest of the country is going slower, obviously, because it's not quite as dense. So we'll see.